You were not destroyed by her. You were destroyed by an illusion you were never meant to question. From your earliest breath, you were taught that love is the highest form of human experience, that somewhere in this chaotic world, there would be a woman whose gaze would redeem your suffering, whose body would reward your striving, and whose loyalty would prove your worth. You believed this not because it was true, but because it was necessary for the continuation of the species. This lie had to be told. If men knew the truth too early, the world would collapse in on its own despair. And so, the myth was propagated, that love is connection, that it means something beyond instinct, that when she looked at you, touched you, smiled for you, she saw you. Not your status, not your potential, not your genetic utility, but your soul. That lie, once swallowed, forms the center of a man's suffering. Because it is not betrayal that breaks him. It is the slow realization that no betrayal ever truly occurred. She never loved you the way you imagined, because love, as you imagined it, does not exist. Love is not sacred. It is strategy. It is not intimacy. It is instinct. What you experienced in her arms was not spiritual unity. It was biological imperative. And what felt like a once-in-a-lifetime romance was the will to life using your body to achieve its singular goal: reproduction. The will, that blind metaphysical force, cares not for your dignity, your dreams, your devotion. It only wants one thing: for the species to continue regardless of the cost to your soul. And in this cruel arithmetic, the woman was not your savior. She was its instrument. Do not mistake her softness for safety. She was designed to draw you in, not by malice, but by design. The softness of her voice, the warmth of her gaze, the way she made you feel seen. These were not signs of spiritual union. They were the tactics of nature honed through millennia to pull you into the machinery of reproduction. And once you had served your purpose, once the emotional labor had been extracted, the seed planted, the desire consumed, the will no longer needed you. She no longer needed you, and so she changed, not suddenly, not with cruelty, but inevitably. You wondered what you did wrong, why her affection faded, why her touch became colder, her eyes more distant, her words less kind. You told yourself it was your fault. You weren't man enough, rich enough, spiritual enough. But the truth is far worse. It had nothing to do with you at all. You were simply no longer useful to the will's project. And when a man is no longer useful, he becomes invisible. Schopenhauer saw this with brutal clarity. He did not hate women. He unmasked the mechanism behind them. Love, he wrote, is the bait by which the will lures the man into the trap of existence. The man believes he is chasing pleasure, companionship, transcendence. In truth, he is being chased by a force far more ancient than he can comprehend, a force that seduces through illusion and discards through necessity. The will does not care for your heartbreak. It does not flinch when she forgets you. It is indifferent to the pain it inflicts, because pain in its logic is nothing more than fuel for the next cycle of striving. And so you suffered, not because you were foolish, but because you were sincere. You believed, you gave, you trusted. And now you sit in silence, trying to reconcile the warmth she once gave you with the coldness she left behind. You think you were broken, but you were only broken open, so you could finally see. And what you are beginning to see is this: love was never for you. It was for it, for the will, for the species, for the continuation of life at your expense. This is the first truth few dare to admit. You believed she chose you, that out of all possible men she saw something unique in you, your soul, your humor, your depth, and declared, even if silently, "This one is mine." That belief, more than any gesture or vow, created the illusion of security. It soothed your spirit, it wrapped your fear in the warm cloth of belonging. But it was never true. She did not choose you because she knew you. She chose you because the will moved through her, and you fit its requirements, for now. The woman, like the man, is not an autonomous agent of divine love. She is a function of nature's arithmetic. She is not yours. She never was. She belongs to that which operates beneath her speech, behind her smile, within her skin, the will to life. Schopenhauer wrote that the woman is the embodiment of the species' cunning, not in some conscious conspiracy, but in the tragic genius of nature's design. She was built to deceive, not morally but biologically. Her charm, her kindness, her affection, her tears, all of it is real, but none of it belongs to her. It is the species speaking through her. It is life's blind hunger masquerading as human warmth. And it speaks only until it no longer needs to. The will courts through illusion, then discards through silence. And so does she. You mistook her gaze for recognition. It was selection. You mistook her touch for devotion. It was instinct. You mistook her body for a temple of love. It was a mechanism, beautifully engineered, seductively wrapped, and entirely indifferent to your spiritual longings. And the moment her body, her instincts, her desire no longer aligned with the will's deeper purpose, she withdrew. Not because she hated you, but because she never saw you. Not truly, not fully. She saw your potential for fertilization, provision, validation. And when those needs were met or surpassed by another, you were released. Like a hand opening after the object it grasped has served its use. She was not cruel. She was obedient. Obedient to a force she does not understand and cannot escape. The will does not ask her permission. It flows through her blood, her womb, her instincts. It tells her what to desire and when to stop desiring it. And so she shifts, she cools, she moves on. And the man, poor fool, is left stunned, not because she changed, but because he believed she wouldn't. The tragedy is not that she left. The tragedy is that you ever believed she was yours. But what is yours can be known, held, kept. And she is none of those things. She is not an individual in the romantic sense. She is a vessel, a beautiful carrier of nature's code. And when that code no longer finds use in you, she must respond accordingly. The will does not allow sentimentality. It commands efficiency. And in that command she obeys, smiling, weeping, walking away. Whatever is necessary. You must understand this. She is not the enemy. She is the mask the will wears to ensnare the masculine, to lure him into sacrifice, to convince him to protect, to build, to strive, to fight. All for the hope of connection, all for the illusion of being chosen. But no man is chosen. He is only ever used. This is the second truth few dare to admit. You replayed her words in your mind 1,000 times, the way she said she loved you, the promises made in quiet rooms, the look in her eyes when she held your face and whispered that you were the only one. You remember them not as memories but as wounds, not because they were false but because they were real, and still they meant nothing. This is what breaks a man, not deception but devotion that dies anyway, not betrayal by a monster but abandonment by someone who once seemed divine. But I tell you, she did not lie. She did not act with malice. She did what she had to. She obeyed the same will that lives in all flesh, the blind, unreasoning force that Schopenhauer saw more clearly than anyone before or since. Understand this. The woman does not choose to fall out of love. She does not plan to forget you. She does not scheme to replace you. These are not crimes of logic. They are functions of biology, and biology does not negotiate. When the will no longer sees in you the highest probability of survival or stimulation, it retreats. The chemicals fade, the gaze softens, the body that once welcomed you becomes colder, distant, indifferent. And she cannot explain why, only that she no longer feels the same, and what she feels becomes her truth. No argument can bring her back, no sacrifice can reverse it, because what is no longer useful to the will becomes intolerable to her instincts. You think she wronged you. You think she used you. You are right, but only halfway. She did use you, but not consciously. She meant her words in the moment. She believed them too, but her belief was shallow, temporary, circumstantial, because it was never hers to keep. The will spoke through her lips when she said, "forever." It was the species speaking through her skin when she reached for you in the night. The will does not need her to be consistent, it only needs her to be effective. And she was. She drew you in. She made you believe. And now, in your silence, you begin to understand. It was not she who betrayed you. It was the nature that breathes through her. This is why trying to hold her is like trying to hold water. The tighter you grip, the faster it escapes. Because she is not made to be held. She is made to move, to shift, to adapt. She does not serve your emotional security. She serves the timeline of reproduction and advantage. And when those timelines change, so does she. Not because she is evil, but because she is alive with an instinct more ancient than morality, deeper than language, stronger than any vow. And now you sit in the rubble of your belief asking yourself how it all changed. The answer is this: it was never meant to remain. The truth is brutal. It offers no comfort, only understanding. And that understanding is this: she did not abandon you. The will abandoned you through her. She was the stage, the mask, the medium. And now, as you lie discarded and confused, she continues, with another or alone, but always in motion, always at the mercy of something she does not see. Do not hate her, but do not romanticize her either. She is not angel or devil, she is vessel. And your suffering is not her cruelty, it is your awakening. This is the third truth few dare to admit. You believed that what she gave you was a response to who you were, that her affection was earned, her loyalty a reflection of your virtue, her desire a signal of your uniqueness. You believed you were the cause of her devotion, and so, when it vanished, you blamed yourself. You searched your past for errors, your personality for flaws, your masculinity for weakness. But the brutal truth is this: it was never about you. It was never your kindness, your depth, your strength that won her. It was the alignment of need, instinct, and opportunity. And when those variables shifted, so did she. You were not the subject of her love. You were the object of her necessity. The masculine illusion is to believe in earned affection, that love is a transaction of value. You give loyalty and you receive it. You protect and you are kept. You provide and you are remembered. But women do not love that way. Not because they are heartless, but because they are not operating within your frame. A man often loves with permanence because he ties love to identity. But the woman loves with context because her love is tied to instinct. And instinct has no loyalty beyond the present. It obeys only advantage. It does not ask, "Who is he?" It asks, "What does he serve?" Schopenhauer understood that love is not the celebration of a man's essence, but the concealment of the species' aim. She seduces for the child, he wrote, and the man believes it's for him. And so the man builds his castle on sand. He ties his sense of self to a gaze that shifts with the wind. He believes that because she cries in his arms, she will stay. That because she once whispered his name in trembling reverence, she cannot forget. But she can, and she does, because her memory is not governed by history, it is governed by utility. This is why the man who sacrifices, who gives without calculation, who believes without suspicion, suffers most. He thought he was loving a person, but he was worshipping a projection. The woman he adored was real, yes, but real only for a season, only under the spell of need. Once that spell fades, her essence is no longer his sanctuary. It is her exit. And the man, still faithful, still burning, watches her walk away as if she never meant a word of what she said, but she did mean it, in that moment. Because women, as expressions of the will, become what is needed in each phase. They are not deceiving. They are shifting. Like the sea, they reflect whatever moon governs them. And when that moon changes, so does their tide. Your suffering is not the mark of her deception. It is the price of your belief. The belief that she saw you, when she saw only what the will allowed. And now that she has turned, you are not discarded for what you lacked. You are discarded because the role is complete, the utility expired, and the will, always hungry, always hunting, finds a new script, a new man, a new illusion. She does not return your calls. She does not weep as you do, because she does not remember what you remember. Not in the same way. She has moved with the tide. But you, builder of castles, still sit on the sand wondering how stone could dissolve so easily. This is not weakness, this is awakening. And the man who survives this truth becomes untouchable, not because he cannot feel, but because he no longer confuses illusion for intimacy. This is the fourth truth few dare to admit. Every man is born into a script he did not write. Before he can speak, he is taught that his worth will be proven through a woman's approval. Before he understands the world, he is made to believe that his final reward will be love, not wisdom, not silence, not truth, but her gaze. And so he enters life already willing to serve, already willing to suffer, already prepared to bend his identity to win what he believes is salvation. But this salvation is not love, it is bait, and the script he follows is not divine, it is biological. It was written not by gods but by the blind will to life, a force that uses romance to drive reproduction, pain to maintain pursuit, and hope to enslave the masculine soul. You were not supposed to question this. You were meant to play your role, protect her, provide for her, chase her, wound yourself to prove your devotion. And when she withdrew, when she cooled, betrayed, or forgot, you were supposed to blame yourself. You were taught to see your failure not as systemic but personal. But Schopenhauer unmasks the entire operation. He tells us the truth no man is encouraged to speak aloud, that the woman does not love you as an individual but as a function, that her warmth is not proof of your uniqueness, but a reaction to utility. And once utility fades, the warmth is gone, as quickly, as naturally, as impersonally as morning fog under the sun. The biological script is brutal in its efficiency. She desires mystery until it becomes intimacy. She desires provision until it becomes expectation. She desires your strength until it becomes predictable. She is drawn not to what you are, but to what you represent. For now. She is, as Schopenhauer wrote, the species personified. The species does not care for your dreams. It only wants bodies. It only wants cycles. It only wants more life. And the man who gives himself over to this script, who believes that love is his purpose, that women are his reward, that legacy is his escape from death, becomes a slave. You have seen it. The man who gives everything only to be left with nothing. The father whose child is not his. The husband who dies in silence, unloved, having sacrificed every private desire. These are not anomalies, these are the ends of the script. And still men follow it generation after generation because no one dares to say, this is not a romance. This is a transaction disguised as meaning. But Schopenhauer says it, and now you know it. So the only question that remains is, how do you escape? Not through rage, not through conquest, not through manipulating her, controlling her, punishing her. That is still enslavement, only inverted. The only path out is to step off the stage entirely, to stop acting, to stop chasing, to stop needing the illusion at all. This does not mean isolation, it means clarity, to see her not as salvation or enemy, but as the will's agent, and nothing more. To speak when you choose, not when compelled, to give nothing that has not been asked for, and even then to give it in silence without attachment. When the woman senses this, something changes. She feels your stillness, your unreadability, your self-possession. You are no longer a player in her game. You are no longer seeking validation. You are not angry. You are not afraid. You are simply not available to be used. And that, paradoxically, is when her interest may return. Because now, you are a mystery again. But by then, it will not matter. Because you will no longer need her to see you. You will have seen yourself, and that is how you escape. This is the fifth truth few dare to admit. You want to hate her. And who could blame you? She took what was sacred to you and treated it as disposable. She spoke of forever with a trembling voice and then vanished without remorse. She pulled from you confessions, sacrifices, loyalty, and then traded your soul for a newer thrill, a higher status, a momentary instinct. You want to call her evil because it would make your suffering easier to understand. Evil is something one can resist, oppose, punish. But she is not evil. She is nature, and nature does not ask permission, explain itself, or care for the feelings of those it uses. This is perhaps the most devastating realization of all, that your suffering is not the product of one woman's betrayal but of the universe's design. That the very laws of life, hunger, reproduction, selection, made her what she is. She is not a liar. She is not a monster. She is simply what the will needs her to be. She was soft when softness would ensnare, cold when coldness would sever, faithful when faithfulness would benefit the child, unfaithful when betrayal would serve her survival. And all of it, the tears, the laughter, the closeness, the leaving, all of it was real in the moment, but never meant to last. Because she is not built for permanence. She is built for function. You want her to feel what you feel, the hollow ache, the confusion, the deep questioning of self, but she will not. Not because she is heartless, but because she does not live through ideas as you do. She lives through sensation, immediacy, instinct. She does not replay the past as a metaphysical wound. She moves forward because biology compels her to. She adapts, attaches, detaches, recalibrates, and you, still kneeling in the ruins of the dream she once built with you, believe she must remember it as you do. She does not. That version of her no longer exists. It expired the moment her instinct did. But you must not descend into resentment, because resentment is still a kind of attachment. To hate her is to still believe she owed you something. She did not. She owed the will, and she paid in full, with her body, her mood, her gaze, her decisions. She followed the script perfectly. You are not the victim of her cruelty. You are the victim of your belief that she could be something else. Schopenhauer saw this not with bitterness, but with clarity. Women are not evil, he wrote. They are necessary. Necessary for what? For pain, yes, but also for awakening. The woman forces the man to confront his illusions. She reflects back to him not what is true, but what is useful. And when he is no longer useful, she moves on. And if he does not understand this, if he continues to believe that love is about being known rather than being used, he will suffer again, and again, and again. So do not hate her, do not worship her, simply see her. And in that seeing, understand this. She was never yours, not because she was taken, but because she was never given. The will does not give, it only borrows, and what it borrows it reclaims. Not with malice, but with necessity, and this is the sixth truth few dare to admit. You are taught that to be loved you must give everything. Your time, your strength, your attention, your soul. You are taught that love is earned through surrender, that vulnerability is proof of worth, that transparency will build trust. But now you understand, and it was your willingness to give all of yourself that made you expendable. When she saw everything, there was nothing left to chase. When she knew your every thought, your every plan, your every fear, the mystery died, and with it, her desire. She did not want the truth of you. She wanted the illusion. And once the curtain was pulled back, the play was over. The man who gives all is not worshipped. He is consumed. And once consumed, he is discarded, not because he was weak, but because he made himself available to be known, and the known is always replaced. The known cannot stimulate the will. The will does not hunger for what it possesses, it hungers for what eludes it. That is why the man who withholds, who speaks less, reveals less, depends less, is not only desired more but suffers less. Because he is no longer caught in the cycle of display and rejection. He stands apart, unreadable, untouchable, and in that posture he is not above the woman, he is beyond her reach. To withhold is not to deceive, it is to see clearly that what you give away too freely will never be valued. To withhold is not manipulation, it is restraint, it is dignity, it is the refusal to be pulled into a system that feeds on your availability and punishes your devotion. The man who withholds does not beg for understanding. He does not explain himself to be chosen. He does not seek comfort in being seen. He does not display his wounds to be healed. He carries them in silence, because he knows that to reveal them is to invite the machinery of the will to use them against him. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he wrote that the wise man withdraws not from life, but from illusion. The man who no longer believes in the romance of mutual understanding, who no longer chases emotional transparency as salvation, is not cold, he is liberated. He speaks when it serves truth, he gives when it cannot be misused, and he remains silent when the world demands performance. He knows that to be predictable is to be consumed, to be legible is to be replaced, and so he cultivates the ultimate power, opacity. You thought your strength was in how much you gave, but your strength is in how little you need to give. She cannot destroy what she cannot touch. She cannot touch what she cannot read. She cannot read what does not need to be understood. And that is where your freedom begins. Not in control, not in conquest, but in the refusal to be compelled by the hunger of the species, in the quiet knowledge that no man ever suffered for what he kept to himself. This is the seventh truth few dare to admit. There comes a moment in a man's life when the illusion collapses, not through drama, not through rage, but in silence. A silence so vast that it echoes through every memory, every promise, every whisper of love once believed to be eternal. This collapse is not the end of love. It is the end of the idea of love, the kind of love you were taught to crave, the kind you were told would redeem your suffering. When this illusion dies, it does not leave you empty, it leaves you clear. Clarity is not joy, it is not hope, it is not a new desire replacing the old, it is stillness. It is the cold, sharp edge of understanding that no longer demands the world to make sense but simply sees it for what it is. You no longer ask why she changed, why she left, why she chose another. You no longer dig through her words searching for contradictions or through your memory looking for the mistake. The illusion needed those questions. Clarity needs none of them. Clarity says she did what the will required and so did you. That is all. In this clarity, a new form of man is born, not the lover, not the avenger, not the wounded poet, but the observer. He sees the patterns, he names them, and then he lets them go. He no longer seeks a woman to complete him because he no longer believes he is incomplete. He no longer looks for meaning in devotion because he has found meaning in detachment. He walks beside the world, not within its dramas. He does not perform, he does not persuade, he does not plead. Schopenhauer called this resignation, not in the sense of despair, but in the highest form of philosophical strength. To resign from illusion is not weakness, it is the refusal to serve lies. It is the courage to endure existence without the narcotic of hope. And for the man who has suffered at the hands of love, this is the only true redemption. To no longer require what once enslaved him. You begin to see her differently now. Not as the goddess who failed you or the demon who hurt you, but as the messenger. She carried the will, and through her the will used you. But in the using it revealed itself, and in that revelation it lost its power. Because what you have seen cannot be unseen, what you have felt cannot be unfelt. The pain that once crushed you has now carved space, not for joy but for wisdom. And in that wisdom you are finally free. This is the eighth and final truth, the one no one dares to live.